Hello, welcome to the Lex and Lace Podcast. My name is Lexi, that's who I am. And what do I do? Well, until recently, I was a legal analyst at an accounting firm. And yeah, we'll get into that story later on into the podcast or subsequent episodes. But yeah, why did I decide to start a podcast? I decided to start a podcast because I believe that I would say that I have a unique life experience. I'll get into more about that later, but I think that I bring sort of a unique perspective where it's a perspective that I haven't really seen, or I feel like people who've lived like I have, you don't really see them out and about talking about like their life experience and stuff. So I think it's just one of those things where I felt like I wanted to, um, you know, just have I'm not going to say have my life documented, but have my life experiences as well as those of subsequent guests, which will be my friends and family, just sort of be out there as a audio sort of archive of different things that have to do with my life. But this podcast is not only about myself. The podcast is also about Lex is where it comes in because it's like a play on words with my name, Lexi, but also Lex has to do with the law because that's the Roman word for law. So it has to do with the law. Lace has to do with the fact that it's fashion. And then lace also has sort of intimate connotations because I feel like, or I think that we're going to have a lot of intimate conversations throughout this podcast. So it's not, so it's like one of the passions that I do carry is fashion as well as law. So that's why I call the podcast what it is. But I think another big part of the podcast is going to be about AI. I think AI is the future. I'm interested in tech from a point of view of how it intersects within our daily lives and how it affects different industries. I think a lot of my podcast, surprisingly, is going to be based around sort of work, education, things of that nature, but it's all going to be from the perspective of law, fashion, and AI. So what I mean by that is obviously when I have guests come onto the show, which is like, I guess that would be the whole point of the podcast because it's not only about me, it's also going to be about the people in my lives and how they have like shaped my life in a specific way, but also about where they are in their lives. I think, like I said, I think I bring a unique perspective that I haven't really seen around. I think that's why I specifically wanted to have a podcast. I think when you're somebody who is from Mozambique, first and foremost, I'm from Mozambique, my parents are from Mozambique, all my family's from Mozambique, but I grew up in different places. So I like was born in Italy. I I lived there for about 13 years, but there was a year where I went back to Mozambique. People are like, "Oh, you're not a citizen?" No, I'm not. Complicated story. Anywho, so then lived there till I was about, yeah, I was about 13, 14. Then I moved to France for 3 years. So that was super, super cool. So I was born in Rome, lived there 13 years, moved to France for, yeah, 3 years. Then, yeah, I was in Paris for 3 years. Then I moved to New York for 2 years. So I was doing the IB then. Long day. For those who know. So then, yeah, I was doing that. Then I moved to the UK to do a law degree. But we'll get more into sort of my legal background. But I think when you sort of live in a world where you speak lots of languages while people don't expect you to, coming from someone who's black, also from like a quote unquote poor African country, I think you surprise people a lot, and so people don't really like expect you to one, be so knowledgeable, and two, people underestimate you a lot. I think that's what I've experienced. So I just wanted to sort of get my perspective out there of like who I am, what I do, why I do it, stuff like that. I think that's mainly what this podcast is going to be about. And I think I also wanted a podcast where I could combine a lot of my passions. I wouldn't say I'm the most passionate about law, but I think throughout the years of both studying law and being within the legal industry in different sectors, whether that's in-house or yeah, like whether that's in-house or it's private practice, um, it's interesting to see how the law affects daily lives and how I've sort of navigated the legal system as somebody who I'll get more into that later, but as somebody who didn't really want to practice law full time, I would say. So, yeah, I think that's what I can say about the podcast and why I wanted to do it. I think mm, sometimes the law can be one of those sectors which is so laser focused on specific things, specific people, and like the main narrative that you hear is from like a very specific group of people. So that would be let's say like Oxbridge people. I guess people who went to Oxbridge, but like when I say people that went to Oxbridge, I don't mean someone who's like working class that got into Oxbridge. I mean people who are like whose parents went to Oxbridge kind of thing, and then whose generations of parents have been going to Oxbridge. So I think the law is saturated with a lot of people that have that sort of perspective, or those are mainly the voices that are amplified. I think that's a better way to put it to go about it because the legal field has so many different people within it. So I think it highlights a lot of, so it amplifies a lot of those like traditional like legal voices of people who've basically are like generational lawyers, if that makes sense. They come from a generation of like barristers and solicitors when there's so many other voices out there that need to be amplified. So I think that my specific voice from somebody who isn't working class, I'd say someone who's upper middle class, but is also sort of who's also sort of had an immigrant experience. I think that's a perspective that we don't normally get. So that's why I genuinely wanted to like start this podcast. And I also wanted to for it to be laser focused on the legal industry, the fashion industry, which is an industry that I've always been interested in, but I've sort of been on like the I'm not gonna say the back burner, but I've always sort of been on the outskirts of it because it's something that I've always wanted to do. It's something I've always wanted to be I was always interested in, but never really got the chance to actually be in that world. So I've always like read about it, learned about it, but never really done it. So I think this podcast will allow me to like get more involved outside of, oh yeah, let's go shopping. I like this. This looks cool. Oh, that looks really cool. That's a really cool accessory. Like I want to get like more involved in certain ways. And I want to combine with the law. So that's also really cool. And then obviously we have AI. Um, AI. Artificial intelligence is very interesting. I think it's interesting for a multitude of reasons. I think it's definitely the future and it's already here with us. So it's something that we can't necessarily ignore. I think when you, let's say, when you speak to, when you are job seeking or even when you are like in the process, I think I would speak about like job hunting and just being like um, tertiary education because that's sort of like the stage of where I'm at in my life. So I think that's why I relate it. That's why I relate it specifically to this podcast and what everything else that I'm going to be talking about because it's one of those things that people will ask you about and people want you to be informed about. I think nobody can forget that AI is something that's crucial, whether that's like in a fast tech kind of way or in a slow tech kind of way where it's like, okay, we can casually use AI, or if it's way where it's like, okay, we are full on using AI for this. So yeah, I think that is a very long-winded summary of what this podcast is to me and why it matters to me and why I decided to embark on this journey to do this podcast in the first place. So next segment. And we're back. So I wanted this segment to sort of be about like my personal life and then like I would sort of go into the legal sector of things. So I'm just gonna like ease my way into that. So yeah, I spoke a little bit about how I grew up, where I grew up and stuff earlier. So I think it would make sense. People are gonna be like, wait, why are we able to move around so much? My friends are diplomats. That's why I was able to move around so much. That is as deep I'm going to explain it. But yeah, my parents are diplomats. So that allowed us to live in different countries, experience different things. So it's like when I say that, not only do I have a unique experience, I think my parents and my family members also have a unique experience, and so do like my friends and family around me. So that's why I believe that this podcast is going to be centered around them and their experiences as well. Because again, when you do attend international schools, when you do attend, let's say, private schools, when you're able to travel a lot, when you're able to live in a country long term, when you're able to learn the language, really immerse yourself within a country and a community, even for let's say like 3, 4 years, and then do it again somewhere else. I think again, it's not a perspective that I have seen. I believe that a lot of people that have grown up in these like families of diplomats or like families of people who work for the UN, for example, stuff like that, I think that they are rarely mentioned, or we rarely see their perspective because like guess what? They're probably doing the same thing their parents are doing, which I don't have any problem with that, but it again speaks to the question of it again like sort of brings up the question of these are the same people we're seeing, and these are the people that are being represented in those institutions. Obviously, my podcast is not really necessarily going to like center around the UN system and like the political system. Like, not necessarily. It can, it might. If some guests want to talk about that, I'm very much open to that conversation. But I think it goes back to what I was saying about the legal sector, where it's like you see similar faces, you hear the similar perspectives, and it's like it's great for it's great you got that job. It's great you were privileged enough to like have a connection within the UN industry and within the UN system. But how is the UN gonna have diversity of thought and diversity of opinion if it's the same? It's like you're regurgitating the same people over and over again. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of those people are not really down in the nitty-gritty of things. So I wanted to bring the perspective of someone who's like lived that life and has been on like the inside of that, but is obviously like speaking out more like outwardly about stuff. So yeah, I think I wanted to center around my friends and my family in that specific way because I believe that yeah, it's just like a unique perspective that some people don't really get the insight on, so you don't really know what people within that lifestyle are doing until you've sort of like lived around that or you've been around that. So that's definitely something that I found interesting. I think growing up in a sort of like PWI, like predominantly white institution, which are predominantly white countries as well, as a black person, as a black woman specifically, as a black child at the time, it definitely shocks your system. Racism is one of those things that really shocks your system. And, kids are mean regardless. Like, children are ruthless. But I think being a child when you are not the norm and you don't see the norm around you, it's difficult. It definitely, like, knocks down your confidence. And I struggled for a lot of years in terms of confidence, and something that I'm still struggling with today. So, mm, yeah, I would say that that's the perspective that I have. That's the perspective that I've lived. That's the narrative that I've lived around. So I try not to like hold on and harbor sort of those feelings towards certain people I grew up with, certain high school bullies, but whatever. I'll talk about that with someone else who went to school with me and maybe can speak to that experience. So yeah, like it's not always the greatest when you're like the only black person, let's say, in your year group or slash grade. I don't know who's listening. Americans might be listening. You guys say grade. I say year group. Because I grew up mainly in the British system. Isn't that fun? So yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that um is an experience. I'm not trying to feel sentimental in this moment. I'm not trying to remember sort of those different difficult experiences that I did have, but I think I am proud of myself for overcoming a lot of those confidence issues that I did have and that I'm still sort of struggling with today. So I'm also using this podcast as a way to like gain more assertiveness and more confidence within myself and my opinions and my feelings and myself as a person, as a human being. I think that's also, it's like, I'm not gonna say it's therapeutic, but it could be in specific ways. So yeah, I think yeah, so growing up like that, even now, growing up in a situation where, like I didn't have the whole like white picket fence because it's like my dad was working somewhere, my mom was working somewhere, my sister's living here, my brother's living there. So it's like even now our family's all a little bit like I wouldn't say fragmented, but we're all over the place, but we still keep in touch and we still try to have a family unit and we still like link up in Mozambique when we get the chance to. So yeah, in terms of being Mozambican, oof, Mozambique is a country of many wonders. Let me not laugh at myself. Yeah, Mozambique is a country of many wonders. Hey. Um, it's a beautiful country. We have beautiful beaches. We have beautiful people, just like very friendly overall people. I think every time I go there, I feel like I feel like a foreigner, which is crazy because like, I'm from there, I speak the language. But people are like, your accent, ooh, this, that. So it's like, I also would love to get the perspective of someone else who also has experienced that because imagine being from somewhere. You go there like every year, you've been going there every year for the past like forever. And people are still like, are you from here? And it's like, girl, what you mean? Look at my name. Please. I have such a Mozambican last name. Excuse. Pardon? What do you mean by that? Like, so I think another thing which is crazy is like this feeling of not finding a home or this feeling of not belonging anywhere because you've already lived in so many places that it's like, where do you feel comfortable as a person? And that's also something that I want to highlight here. And that's also going to be highlighted by other people who are going to come onto this audio podcast presentation because they might also feel the same way, where it's like, I've lived everywhere. I've lived here, here, there, here, and there. And I still don't have a place where I necessarily call home because I've been sort of like on the move. And trust me, we're not running away from anything. People might think that we are. Maybe sometimes we are. Maybe I am running away from something when I move around. But other times it was not up to me. It was up to other people. It was up to the grown-ups. So yeah. When it's stuff like that, it's kind of like, where do you feel most comfortable? And you can name these big cities. Oh, New York City, because there's so many people. It's so multicultural. Oh, London, or Dubai, or this, or that. And it's like, just because it's multicultural doesn't mean that you're going to feel comfortable there. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you have to be able to connect with the country and with its people and with its culture and with the culture that it allows you to, like, if it's a place that allows you to, like, enmesh yourself. I think that's also what's important. And that's something that I would, like, love to ask some of my friends and family, or just even aficionados, because since we're going to be talking about so many different things, I would love to also have certain experts come onto this podcast to just like give their perspective on like whether that's law, whether that's AI, whether that's fashion. I would love to just sort of have them and then sort of like see their perspective on things as well, because again, this is what I was saying earlier, where I feel like I bring a unique perspective to things, and it's not a perspective that I have seen often speak out so boldly or so openly about what goes on. So it'll be really interesting to just like get the perspective of many different people. So that also includes people who are within those specific like industries and how they've navigated it from their perspectives. I love to talk to people. I'm like a yapper, so I don't even know call myself a yapper. Yeah, no, I'm a yapper because I'm doing this, so clearly I can talk. So yeah, like I would say that I'm a yapper. Like I enjoy good conversation. I can pretty much talk to anyone about anything. Like I read the news. I keep up with whether that's like pop culture or news or politics or science or AI or tech or law or fashion. You know what I mean? So it's like I can talk to anyone about anything. So when I say that I'm very open to um just showcasing specific voices or amplifying specific voices which haven't been heard before or whose perspectives we rarely hear. I am all for that. That is what I am about. For real, for real. Now, next segment. And we're back. So now we're gonna get into the lore segment. But before I talk about what the actual lore segment is, um, I went to law school. So that's my academic background. I went to law school. I went to law school between 2020 and 2023. So I graduated in 2023 with an LLB in law with international relations. Where did I do that? I did that in London. I did that at Royal Holloway University of London. Shout out them. Gave me great background. Gave me great foundations into the legal system. Gave me great foundations. Can't complain on that front. They had like a baby law program. Now it's a lot more established, and I'm really happy for them because when we started out, they just started doing the law program. Like, I guess it was like 5 years old. Now it's like a lot older, and like now they have things like lawfare, all these different things, and I'm just there like, yeah, no, that would have been great in my time, but let me not complain too much because it's one of those things. It's like I'm happy to see it for the students who are there now and for the law people studying law who are there now. I think it's one of those things where it's like, um did I wish that I had it at the time? Yeah, it would have been hella helpful. But it was also COVID when I went to uni, so it's kind of like, how much can you really complain? Like, I went to uni, it was all online first year. Second year, it was hybrid. Third year, we could go to lectures, so it was like full on. But they still recorded it, so some people were like, just didn't go. And when graduation came about, we saw heads we didn't even know about. I'm talking people I'd never seen in my life showing up, graduating. And I'm like, well, yay them. Can't complain. Yay them. So yeah, I did law and international relations. I ended up being so much better at international relations at uni during my bachelor's than I was at law. So for a long time, I felt like this wasn't for me. And to be honest, I had one of my tutors tell me, you know what, we find people who are doing like dual degrees to sort of they're so much better at like the other like side of it, their other part of their degree than the law side, but it's something that you can work on. And I definitely say that once I went into my master's program and I was studying something that I loved, I love them. Let me tell you, I loved doing an LLM at Queen Mary University of London. Shout out them. They they gave me a passion for law that I have never had in the 3 years that I studied it. When I tell you, I would only find that passion within the international relations sector segment of my degree. Once I went there, maybe it was just being in the halls of CCLS, maybe it was around being other like-minded individuals, maybe it was the professors, maybe it was just all of those different things amalgamated that just really gave me a passion for law. So it's like I was able to excel at that degree to, oh lol, I was not gonna say to a degree that I didn't expect from myself. Like no pun intended. I did so well. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so happy for it. When I tell you that I would go back for another two, three, four, five LLMs if I could, which I have a lifetime ahead of me. CCLS will see me again, 100%. Fashion law, LLM, maybe. Intellectual property, maybe. Those are the things that interest me currently. But I did comparative and international dispute resolution. But that's kind of like where my law school journey ended. But starting from the beginning, like I was saying earlier, I liked it because I wanted to study law because I think ultimately wanted to do politics, but I was kind of like, I don't want to like just do politics with an IR. I think I wanted to do something else. I think I wanted to do something that carried more weight and that wasn't such a like a niche field. So I was like, let me do law because law can transcend many different sectors. So one thinks. So yeah, I did that and that was fun. I loved international relations. I think this is gonna sound terrible, but I don't like lawyers. I don't like lawyers. I don't think I've ever liked them. Everyone in my law cohort, not nice people. I mean, I can't say they're not nice people. I think there's just a certain competitiveness that certain law students and then future lawyers like sort of have within them that it's like it felt like people around you weren't happy for you and were trying to tear you down or just trying to maybe not tear you down. I think that's a little bit extreme, but I'm gonna say one up you. So that's kind of what it felt like being in law school. I felt like everybody was there for an agenda for a reason. It didn't feel genuine. I met two of my best friends in law school and we all did law together and it was great. and I didn't get that vibe from them. But like everyone else, I did not mess with too much. Not to a great extent, I would say. So there's that element of it. Everyone in my IR cohort, beautiful people. The politics department, beautiful people. Professors are beautiful. The students were great. I actually graduated with them because at Royal Holloway, how it worked is that I guess you graduate with, because I was part of the law with program, so it's like 75% law, 25% with. So my with was IR. So I ended up graduating with that class, and it was great because I was like, damn, I'm actually graduating with the people that I actually studied with. That like I saw mostly in classes, like the people that I genuinely like more so semester than fuck, you know what I mean? So yeah. So it was fun in that regard because I was like, yeah, I'm graduating with the people that I like. Cool. Um, yeah. So that was like really fun. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, in my third year, actually, I ended up doing more IR because more IR modules than law modules. Because I was just there like, why would I like I'm in my third year. It's already gonna be hard. I'm already gonna have a crazy workload. Why would I study things that I don't like? Doesn't make sense. And this it just goes back to that thing of like I didn't feel like law was for me. So then when I did eventually go do my master's, it completely changed my perspective on things, which I'm so glad that it did because when I was finishing law school, my friends went to go do like um, the LPC. They went down that route, so it's like they wanted to become solicitors and they wanted to practice. I didn't feel like I had enough passion in law to practice, and I kind of still don't feel that way. I'm kind of like, it's not really something I want to do, so it's not something that I would necessarily want to pursue, which is fine. So yeah, um, I don't know. Maybe I will qualify years to come because everyone's like, yeah, you should qualify. But it's like, one, I have to pick a jurisdiction and probably be in the UK since I did all my degrees there. And then it would just allow me, since it's a common law degree, it would just allow me to like, it would just open a lot more doors for me. But then it's also like time and money. It's like, I'm in a phase in my life where it's like, I've done my bachelor's, I've done my master's. I want to get working before I choose to either get back into education, or either that means like doing another like LLM or doing, or like do my qualifying like exam, right? So it would be like the SQ in this case. I don't know if I would do the bar course. I'd have to do more research on it. I have a friend who I did masters with. She did the bar course and like she's killing it. She's killing it, but she's a creative girly, so she was really smart. She decided to do intellectual property, which has to do a lot with the creative industry. So she decided to do an intellectual property degree. So she did all of the, like, the intellectual property stuff, but then on top of it, since Queen Mary is boss in terms of LLMs, they offer like a lot of different modules in like let's say fashion law, music law, what else was it? Film and TV, media, creative industries. So it's like I wish I had known about that. I wish I'd done better research. Mind you, I'm not like shitting on my degree. My degree was great. I think I fell so much more in love with what I wanted to do, which was mediation. And I also fell more in love with arbitration, which some people find it controversial for various reasons, and I understand why. But yeah, so I fell so much more in love with that, with that with that sector, and it's still something that I would love to do, and it's something that I can always do regardless because a lot of I didn't necessarily want to do an LLM that involved litigation, but obviously you ended up learning about litigation, but I was mainly focused on the alternative dispute resolution part of things. So yeah, that is where I stood on it, and I'm very proud of that I did that degree. It was very interesting. I met amazing people. One of my besties. Oh, I miss him. But I miss a lot of my friends. I think that's what it is. I miss my friends dearly, and I wish I could see them, but everyone is all over the place, so it's like I have to find a job that pays me properly so that I can go visit them. That's really the plan. But yeah, I think, like I said, if I had to go back to do another LLM, maybe what I could do is do the SQE and an LLM all at the same time, which is crazy. But yeah, it's like something that could work. And then I would do it at Queen Mary because like there's nowhere else that would offer sort of that level of education. There just isn't with those options as well. It's like things are so niche there that it's like, okay, is this even what like you're in such a niche field at that point, and I'm so happy for my friend that like decided to do that because she knew that I'm a creative girly. my African parents ain't gonna allow me to just do creative industries. They want me to do something else. So let me try and see what I can do and what I can figure out. I wish I'd done more research and maybe I would have gone down that route, but I'm still very happy where I'm currently at, and I'm also privileged enough to like be able to potentially go back if I wanted to, you know what I mean? So yeah, that then took me to my sort of joining the legal sector. So I've worked private practice and I've also worked in-house. And what can I say? Private practice, I think it was really nice to be helping people day to day, regardless of how the firm was working and stuff like that and how my bosses were. I don't know, somehow I've always been really lucky that I've always had great people around me. I've always worked around great people. So I've really been lucky in that regard. Somehow, I don't know how I've been able to pull it off, but I've always had great teams. But it's always management that decides to like muck things up. For me, at least, that's been my experience. Where it's like management isn't great, but the team is great. So it's like you can thug it out because like everyone's working great together. So whether that's across my internships or whether that's across like my temp jobs and stuff. So yeah. So working private practice, working for an attorney is rough because it's like you have to go to court, you have to do this, you have to do that. So in that respect, it's a lot of it. It's a tedious job because also sometimes it's like you're drafting stuff, so you're working till late because guess what? They need it in the morning. So it was very high pressure, but I think the most satisfying part of the job is like by the end of it, I worked in a commercial law firm. So by the end of it, it's like, oh, look what I've done. I've achieved this. Our client won. Or maybe not even our client won, but we got the best outcome for our client and our client is happy. I think that's what it really is at the end of the day. Sometimes you will have a client which you don't agree with, but if you're still able to like pull it off and make people happy and like people are satisfied with you with your job, it's still great because you also end up making great connections and you end up networking in that way as well. Because it's like, okay, cool. It got to a point where it's like, my clients that like I was assigned to, they were like, we want to work with her. So when I actually eventually had to leave, because end of contract and stuff, they were like, oh, where are you next going? And it's like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Whoops, sorry. But it also made me realize that I don't want to work private practice. It's not for me. And then there was such a pressure for me to qualify that I was like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this to be my life. I just wasn't fitting well. Then working in-house is great if I'd had more like, because I felt like I was the only legal person there at that accounting firm. So everything legal fell upon me, but I'm still like very junior, I would say, when it comes to legal knowledge sometimes. Because yeah, I know like legally wise, things are pretty much the same regardless of where you work. Like certain things are just very similar, especially in the commercial space. So I knew a lot, but sometimes their expectations were so high of me that it felt like I had imposter syndrome where it's like, I don't know if what I'm doing is right, but whatever, we doing it, we rocking with it. We rocking with it. We don't have a choice. We rocking with it. And you have to obviously deliver. So in-house is also has its challenges because if I had worked in-house with someone else who had like legal background or legal knowledge, I think it would have been way better and I would have felt more supported. But being in-house and being the only one who has sort of that background, yeah, it's different. It's completely different. And coming from like someone who's like supposed to be working an entry level job, like it's tough. Like it's tough. So I'm still trying to figure out. I think I would still rather do in-house. I would just do in-house with a place that has a proper legal department as opposed to like me like having a makeshift legal department, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's me working within the legal industry. I've also worked for charities. I've where else have I worked? I've also like my CV is full of different things. But yeah, I think it's always nice to work somewhere where you're able to use what you've learned and what you've studied. So I would say that I'm still very much open to working in the legal industry, but I would also am interested in working in other sectors, sort of like business sector. So it's something that I want to explore more. I still want to work in financial services. I think that's where I find that the work can be, because it's not too much pressure. This is what I mean by private practice comes with pressure. Like if you mess up, like that's someone's life you messing up. Like whether it's well, all of our cases were civil. So yeah. Um so I think I didn't like the pressure of that because it's like if something bad happens, it falls upon me and it's like it's a bad look for everybody. But it's especially ruinous for the client. So when you work in-house, you don't really have that pressure, which I highly appreciate. And I also want to get into compliance, but we'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see. We'll see. I'm still trying to figure out my life, to be honest. So that's why I'm podcasting. Maybe that's the reason why. You know what I mean? Here we are. Ne? Yeah. Yeah. Ne? Yeah. Um, short break. Next segment. So, our legal story of the week is that the Solicitors Regulation Authority, the SRA, in the UK approved a first AI-driven law firm, and it's called Garfield Law Limited. So, and I quote, this is from the website. He said that we have authorized the first law firm providing legal services through artificial intelligence. While many law firms are already using AI to support and deliver a range of back office and public-facing services, Garfield Law Limited is the first purely AI-based firm we have authorized to provide regulated legal services in England and Wales. So I feel like what I heard about it, what I read about it was that I think it was two lawyers started it up. I don't know their name specifically. I probably should do more research before I like put things on here. But yeah, so two lawyers decided to, I guess, start up their law firm and like it be AI powered essentially. So again, this is from the SRA website. Garfield.law offers small and medium-sized businesses as well as law and other firms the use of AI-powered litigation assistant to help recover unpaid debts, guiding them through the small claims court process up to trial. They say that we are encouraging the development of new approaches and models due to the potential consumer benefits. AI-driven legal services could deliver better, quicker, and more affordable legal services. There are, however, potential risks to the public, so we have been making sure that there are appropriate checks in place to make sure that consumer protections are not diluted. So, from what I understand, and from what I've read, Garfield AI, or Garfield Law, the firm uses a hybrid AI expert system to handle cases, which like includes quality checks, conflict of interest safeguards, debt recovery, and ensures lawyers remain accountable for their work according to the Law Gazette. So I think it's a thing where it's like people work in AI, so it's like AI does the bulk of it, but then you obviously have a lawyer working in tandem to make sure that like the AI is it to make sure that AI is getting it right so that like it can help the like client. I think that's how it works, which super interesting, by the way. I think that's great. I think what do I think? I I think it's the future. I think I want to see how it progresses because mind you, this was approved in May. That's why I said this in May. And then the story keeps developing because I saw something about it on LinkedIn like a few weeks ago as well. That's why I wanted to include it here in the podcast because like how it's gonna work is that I'm obviously gonna like do a little introduction, then gonna bring in a law segment, then obviously my guests are gonna come through, then we're gonna get into the next segment. But I think this is gonna be a really AI episode, the one that I'm currently doing. But I don't know how to feel about it. I think some people are very skeptical. I want to see how it goes because I don't want to be a skeptic because I think, for example, when you work, sometimes you need a template and no one has a template. This is from a personal experience. So it's like no one has a template and you're not gonna go ask someone for a template or like look for a template. Like so it's like sometimes AI does help you in the sense of like, okay, I need to draft this, please help me draft this. And they'll really do it. So because I think sometimes things are difficult to explain, especially when this is what I mean when working in house can be difficult because you're the one who has to figure out how to put things in place. So it's like, oh, we want a contract drafted like this, like this, like this, like this, and this, including this, and this, and this, and this. You sometimes don't have the knowledge or the capacity to be able to put that into words. So AI, if you explain it to them properly enough, again, my brother who he does IT and he's in tech and he did like computer science, he's like, your the results are only going to be as good as your prompts. That's his direct quote. So it's like if you know how to use AI to your advantage to put in a good prompt, you will be fine. So I don't know how Garfield law works. I don't know how they're putting in the prompts. I don't understand, but I want to understand more. And that's something that we're going to have to see with time. Since it's just started out, it's just been approved. What, it hasn't even had 6 months yet. There's not much we can still say. We will see how it progresses. But shout out to those two lawyers that did this. Like, shout out you for real. I hope it goes well. I'm very hopeful. you're gonna hear my views about AI, but I'm very hopeful because this could be really helpful. I mean, they also say that arbitration is a way of delivering quicker, better, and more affordable legal services, which I think is true. So, yeah. Um, if arbitration has been able to do that, it's not the same thing per se, but if arbitration has been able to do that, and if alternative dispute resolution has been able to provide that, I say, why can't AI also do the same? People were skeptical about that back in the day. They're like, what do you mean you're not going to go to court and argue in front of a judge and there's going to be like a resolution by the end of it? And it's like, no, you can have a different resolution in a different way. You don't have to go to court. So the same way, you don't have to go to a lawyer, you don't have to go to court to resolve your problem. You can go to arbitration or mediation negotiation. Is the same way that you don't necessarily have to go to a law firm. You can go to Garfield. So Garfield Law, and you can deal with a computer, or as opposed to dealing with a physical human. So you can deal with an LLM as opposed to dealing with a human. So shout out to the large language models. Let's see. Okay, so next segment. So the next segment is going to be the fashion segment. So my passion for fashion. I've always liked to dress. I've always liked being interested in different things. I think I went through like the hypebeast phase, quote unquote, the like streetwear style kind of phase, and that really got me interested in a lot of different other things. So like couture or just like fashion industry in general. Also when you live and like grow in Paris and New York and London, like you're gonna be influenced by fashion one way or another. So yeah, so that's that. So I have a passion for that and I want to explore it more. So I think this podcast will also allow me to explore a lot more. So I'm interested to see where it goes. And yeah, I don't know. I wanted to get back into the fashion industry. Also, like a lot of my friends, I have friends who are doing fashion courses, and a lot of my friends have even gone to like UCL. So I'm like, you know what? I remember when I just started uni, actually, I went out a bunch of people who went to UAL, like University of the Arts London, and they were like at Central St. Martin's, the fashion college and stuff. So I'm like, so I felt so left out in that moment because I was like, did I make a mistake in my degree? Mind you, I didn't even start it, so it's like I was like, shit, did I make a mistake? Should I be pursuing something more creative, which I know I'm passionate about? Anywho, I thugged out law. Here we are. And that doesn't necessarily stop me because like I was saying earlier, Queen Mary got a fashion LLM, yeah. They might see me soon, yeah. They should watch out. They might hate to see me coming. And yeah, I think I've like modeled for stuff. I've gone to fashion shows before. So I think it's something that I want to immerse myself into a lot more. So I want to see how it's gonna play out. I want to see how it goes. So I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I say that I have friends in that industry, so I can definitely figure out a way of like making my mark in that industry, whether that's from a legal perspective or not, or from like I don't know, you look cool, be an influencer. I don't know. I was like, maybe this is my chance to be an influencer, but I'm scared. The haters are out there. I'm self-conscious. Self-conscious. Hell no. So yeah, this is maybe a chance for me to get back into that. So I'm intrigued to see how it goes. So that's our fashion segment. I'm still figuring it out, and hopefully the listeners will help me figure it out as well. But I will find a way to be in the fashion industry. Mark my words. One thing about me is that when I put my mind to it, I can get it done. Because even this has been in the works for a minute, and today we're doing it. We're doing it. So we're doing it. Next segment, AI. Okay, so we're back. What does AI have to do with this podcast? Like I was saying earlier, I think it's the future. I think it's something that we should all be interested in and we should all look out for. Whether that's from a perspective of, ooh, this is interesting, this can help us, this can like make our lives easier, or from this perspective of this could be dangerous. I think it's something that you should look out for. I think given what I'm like talking about as well, I think AI is very interesting from the legal perspective because literally what the legal segment and the legal story that we just had from today was about how there is now an AI law firm. So I don't think the legal industry can pretend that, oh yeah, no, we don't need them. And I think there's a lot of people who are sitting down and it's like, oh wait, my job isn't obsolete because they still need me. They do, but clearly they're innovating the industry. So we all need to catch up and know what's going on. We can't sit back anymore. We cannot, really and truly. So yeah. And then from the fashion industry perspective, I think not even fashion specifically, but I think the creative industry in it's within itself. I think this is mainly it's one of those things where it's like AI in terms of like intellectual property, like trademark, copyright, all those different things, how it affects like AI is affecting those specific sectors in those ways where it's like, how am I going to prove that this is mine? This is my original work. I think that's the issue that intellectual property has when it comes to things like threads and designs, is because it's like, how do you protect something that's so unique, but it's like somebody else on the other side of the world could also literally draw the same thing. So I think with AI, it's one of those things. It's like, how original is your work if you're just putting in even putting a prompt and it's like, cool, make a design of this and then put it out there. Where does it? It's like it's Sora 2, stuff like that, where it's like, how is this legal? Like, how is this legal? It's legal, but it's like I think the question then becomes, how is this not an infringement on one, your personal rights, so your personal intellectual property, one, and two, intellectual property in general, whether that's designs, whether that's like a trademark, whether that's a name, whether that's a like like a thread, all those different things. I think that's the main how that's like the main way that it affects the fashion industry. It's the how, because even till now, the fashion industry still struggles to place intellectual property on certain designs and stuff, unless or in trademarks, unless you have a really recognizable brand, they could really be like, sorry, that's not original design enough for us to give you a trademark on that. Sorry, which is wild. And that's kind of what I learned during my time at Queen Mary's. So I think it would be interesting to learn more about that. And just again, it's one of those things that's like you have to just keep following the developments of things, because I'm sure that we're gonna have billions of cases about this, not only from like a legal front, but it's like, who are you gonna sue if this person? It's like it's already difficult to sue somebody, quote unquote, if they steal it, if like if a big fast fashion company steals your design from like a small designer they found on like Etsy or Pinterest. But it's like, who are you gonna sue if somebody randomly inputs something into like an AI device or an AI tool and then decides to put that print on a t-shirt, like, and then it's like, wait a minute, that's my trademark, I did that. Like, how are you going to go about that? It's one of those things. It's like, what happens? I think those are the legal questions that a lot of people have at the moment. um yeah, and then I think what I wanted to focus on this podcast as well was like how these three sectors sort of intersect within each other. And then I think the meeting point would definitely be this part of intellectual property, where it's like intellectual property is a legal industry, one, it affects the fashion industry, two, and it's being affected by AI, three. So there's that. So our AI story of the week is how, you guessed it, okay, Microsoft owned LinkedIn will be collecting your data to train AI models starting on November 3rd. So 2 days ago, right? So that's a story that I got from More Perfect Union. And More Perfect Union, shout out them. They always be doing some great stuff. What did they say? They said that effective November 3rd, we started to use some data from members in these regions to train content generating AI, so generative AI models, that enhance your experience and better connect our members to opportunities, LinkedIn says. This includes data like details from your profile, public content you post on LinkedIn. It does not include your private messages, according to an article that I saw on PC Mag. So, according to PC Mag, this is what they wrote. They wrote that last year, LinkedIn quietly announced that it would use your data to train its AI models and would require people to opt out. Days later, it was forced to stop scraping UK user data. Now it expanded the AI training to cover the EU, the EEA, Switzerland, Canada, and Hong Kong. So it's happening. I think I also read that it's going to be happening in the US, but in the US, it's not going to be attributed to like members under 18. So that's one thing, but also when you have like different data protection acts and all these like digital ID stuff and like user what is it? It was like in the UK they had this like age verification limit stuff. So it's like when you have those things also working in tandem with this, it's kind of like how do you make it work? How do you make it work? Because what? You know, another thing to look out for. It's just started. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a few months we hear a lawsuit or a lawsuit has already happened. From what I read, it's not like Microsoft says that it's not going to sweep your personal messages, but guess what? It probably already has. So we'll see. So then it says that it will use your data to train AI by taking data from profile data, so name, photo, current position, prior work experience, etc. Content that you enter into AI generative features, job-related data, so generic responses to screening questions and resumes that members add to the LinkedIn account for ongoing and future use. Groups data, so group activity and group messages. Whoa, hold on. Member content data, posts, articles, poll responses, contributions and comments, all formats, and feedback. Feedback and improvement data, which may include support requests from members, thumbs up, thumbs down, reactions to AI generated suggestions, reporting of issues with generative AI content, or feedback submitted through our feedback features. But I did find out that you can opt out. You can opt out. How do you opt out? Because there's always an opt out. Don't ever forget that there is always a way to opt out of this shit. Because this is how they get you. Ignorance is how they fucking get you, bro. Listen, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but like I was saying, like AI is great, but on the other hand, the other side of the coin of that is that they will screw you somehow. So taking your data, they can sell your data. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like you become the product. I think when it comes to AI, you are the product because they are going to take your data. They already do stuff like you can't even search up a flight or like without like them be like bumping up the price somehow because they have like what is it? Um oh my God, it's called like suggested pricing. So it's like they price it differently for different people depending on what it is. So it's like when you like search up flights or holidays, vacations, hotels and stuff, surveillance pricing, that's what it's called. They already have surveillance pricing. So it's like if they have that and you didn't opt into that and you can't even opt out of that, you can if you can find a way to opt out of stuff, please opt out. Let me tell you how to do it. So it says log into your LinkedIn account, step 1. Step 2, click on your profile at the top right corner of the LinkedIn homepage. 3. From the drop-down menu, select settings and privacy. 4. In the settings menu, click the data privacy section up to your left. 5. Under data privacy, find and click on data for generative AI improvement. 6. You will see a toggle switch labeled use my data for training content creation AI models. 7. Toggle will switch to off to opt out of allowing LinkedIn to use your data for training AI models. You know, I just gave you the download. I literally just gave you guys a way to opt out from corporations using your data to train AI. If you don't, obviously, you know, I have a friend who's like, yeah, they already got my face anyways. It doesn't even matter. They're already listening anyways. So it's like, what is it? One extra step. And it's like, you know what? I think a lot of things happen without us knowing, especially within the AI and the tech industry. If we can control something, at least if we can at least keep something for ourselves, I think it was Denmark. They issued a law where it's like you have protection over your own like intellectual property. If you can at least find a way to keep your own intellectual property for yourself in small ways, even if it's just opting out and it takes like 5 extra seconds, please do it. Please do it. Please. Please. So now it is time to say goodbye, listener. It's time to say goodbye. So I just want to thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. This is our first episode of many. I will have guests come onto our show. If you want to be part of the show, if you want to be part of the podcast, please come about. What should you expect from this podcast? The expectations have been laid out. I think you should expect different perspectives. You should expect a lot of talk about law, a lot of talk about AI, and a lot of talk about fashion. So that's what you should expect. If you want to come on the pod, message me. I currently don't have social media. I'm very scared of social media. It's not great for me, but you know what? As I get more comfortable doing this, I think I'll also get more comfortable getting back on social media. But for now, find me on LinkedIn. I'm gonna upload this onto Spotify, but you can also find it, and I'll put the links into my LinkedIn. And I'll just like, please share, please like. Please subscribe. I think that's what you're supposed to say. Please just like and share, and please listen. I think I say interesting things, so please listen, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to the Lex and Lace podcast. Bye.